Evening, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us. Dundee and Angus Chamber is really proud to be doing this work to help businesses think about expanding their international markets and learning about new markets. It's been, everybody's had the oddest year, haven't we? But one thing I think hopefully resonates with everybody is that, you know, we've all had to find new ways of doing business. And this is a really good example of something that our chamber didn't do before the 17th of March, but we're getting pretty expert at it, we hope, and everybody is really keen to engage with us. Keith's done a lot of hard work this year exploring how we develop our ambitions as a chamber in helping Scottish businesses reach new markets, and virtual trade missions is definitely a kind of a core part of that activity as we bridge between, you know, what happens this year and doing things virtually and getting back to travel and making those face-to-face business connections. We are funded to do this activity as part of Scottish Chambers of Commerce programme that they have with the Scottish Government. So as part of the Export Nation work that Scottish Government have set out their strategy for, the Scottish Government is focusing on some very key businesses. Scottish Development International as a partner are very heavily engaged in supporting other businesses, and the Scottish Chamber Network is working with mostly new to market, new to international market businesses. So whether you're an existing exporter and are looking at the Netherlands, or whether you're completely new to exporting altogether, this is the first in our programme of webinars and activities looking at how you can explore the Netherlands and make the best of those business opportunities. Already this year, we have run a virtual trade mission to taking Scottish businesses to Dubai, and that was really successful. There were a lot of business-to-business meetings, there were a lot of sessions understanding the opportunities that were in the market, and some real interest and really positive takeaways for Scottish businesses. We hosted an inward mission from the south of India, from Chennai, and that was looking at opportunities in Dundee, but that again has already led to some significant conversations happening, commercial conversations and NDAs being signed between businesses on both sides of those markets. So, you know, I think we're doing things in ways we never thought we'd be doing this year, but this is just a really positive response to our beginnings of our work with the Netherlands. We're also doing a similar webinar on the 1st of December, looking at Virginia as a market. And as a Chamber of Commerce, we have looked at the connections we've got and reasons for doing this kind of activity to make sure that there's a real purpose to why we choose to make connections in different places. And the Netherlands, as you'll hear tonight, is very much in line with the circular economy work that we're doing, and the sectors and the sectoral based opportunities have got lots of synergies between Scotland and Rotterdam and the rest of the Netherlands. And Virginia is the place that Dundee has a twin city with. So, you know, we're very much making the most of where there are sector-based opportunities or there are civic connections already. So really looking forward to this evening and learning more about how we can help really hone down those opportunities for Scottish business. So this evening is about us hearing about some of the kind of the circular economy opportunities. We are going to hear about the wider economic and the sector opportunities that there are, and then we're going to hear from John about a business that is already in market and is making the very most of the opportunities that Scotland and the Netherlands bring to each other. So I'm going to get out of the way really and not say any more than that. At the end, I will come back and we'll have a chance for asking questions of all the speakers together at the end. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat, or just keep them for the end. And when I come back on, you can either put your virtual hand up, or I'll pick some things from the chat as we've been going along and ask our panel of speakers to just deal with those inquiries as we've got them. And then I'll talk about next steps, which are going to be a virtual trade mission and a pre-mission workshop that will help businesses really tell us much more about the opportunities you think you're uncovering in that part of the world, so we can really make those strong connections for you and help put you in touch with maybe our partners that are in that part of the world. So massive thank you in advance to our speakers. This wouldn't be the great event it's going to be without hearing from these speakers, and I'm really looking forward to hearing our first speaker, who is Sabine from Blue City. I think we first came across, in fact, I think I came across Blue City, and I think it was maybe on LinkedIn. We have a project in our chamber called Circular Tayside, and Vaso, our colleague, is on the session tonight. And when we were beginning to do much more work with businesses on circular economy innovations, I first found out about Blue City, and I thought that's the coolest thing ever. So Sabine is going to tell you an awful lot more about what they do, but just the whole concept, you know, I kind of aspire to what she's now got, maybe not what it was in the beginning stages, because they've done such a lot of work to it. But Sabine, I might be giving away all your story, so over to you. Once I can hear you, I will let you know I can, and I'll get out of the way.
Okay, thank you, Alison, for this introduction. So hopefully you guys also think this is cool after I shared our story. So let me check if this runs properly. I've put in as much photo material as I could to give you a good idea of the context and the building, because it's quite a very specific building that we're in, but I'll tell you a bit more about this. My name is Sabine Biesheuvel. I'm one of the founders and managing director of Blue City. It's a company based in a former swimming pool, and we founded it with 6 entrepreneurs and an impact investor. We did so 5 years ago. And we did so because every entrepreneur normally has a frustration, and from that frustration grows an idea and then a product or a business. And our frustration was that this was the actual state of the circular economy. So loads of roadmaps, reports, ideas, and great intentions, but no action. And well, they say that Rotterdam is known for its can-do mentality and specifically its action. So getting to action, very entrepreneurial mindset. And that's what we did is with help of an impact investor, we bought an abandoned swimming pool, which is on the shores of the Maas, which is in the middle, runs through the city. And it's actually in the middle of the city center. You wouldn't say, but this is one of a part of the building. And why we did so is because we thought there was real action needed in the circular economy. So the entire building for us itself is one big experiment with circular building and building with circular principles. And on the other hand, inside the building, we exploit our business model, which I'll tell a bit more about later on. But the reason why we did is that we needed the entrepreneurial mindset, and we needed people that actually bring positive alternatives and circular alternatives to the market. And this was actually the mindset of the impact investor, who is also an entrepreneur in Rotterdam. And he said that we need the people that overestimate their own capacities and underestimate the sustainable challenge ahead. In other words, don't wait for the perfect circumstances, but just start. And that kind of says it all about our mindset. So this is a picture of one part of the building, which is now fully circular renovated. It is actually used to be a former discotheque. So and now it's turned into circular offices, where we use for around about 90% reused locally sourced material, and which is what we reuse and then experiment with circular building. So these offices kind of look like this. And this is also part of the first part of our business model, is we're basically a co-working space that focuses solely on circular entrepreneurs. So we're a very impact-driven space. And our goal as Blue City is to accelerate the circular economy through entrepreneurship. So to set up as much businesses or help as much businesses become circular in the entire region. So another part that's actually opening this Friday is our lab. So we also created a bio-based lab, which is an important part of it, because aside from the entrepreneurs and the new business models that we need, we also need new materials, and we need design, and we need like different designs of our products, but also more bio-based materials. So alternatives to fossil-based products. One of the reasons why this is so important is if you actually start recycling products that shouldn't even be on the market, you give an incentive to actually maintain that product. So this is one of the reasons why we think this is so necessary, and we really need to add on the bio-based cycle. Well, we also have production spaces because, like I said before, we said we needed action. So we were a bit afraid when we started and we opened a co-working space that we would only host consultants and advisors. So we need makers, and Rotterdam really is a maker, has a really great and upcoming makers industry. So we host a lot of innovative companies that actually have real products and real materials. So this is actually the beer brewer that is turning his entire business into a circular business. So they brew on rainwater, filtered rainwater. They use and deliver, actually they capture their CO2 and they give it to the algae farm in the building, because algae really need CO2 to grow on. They use the entire heat of the brewery to heat the rest of the building. So there's a lot of interesting, this is one of the reasons why a beer brewer is a really interesting model and a great example. Let me check. This is another example of one of the companies in Blue City. This is a company that uses discarded mangoes from the ports. They come in the port and they make leather from it. So they use it for furniture or anything else, but it's a leather-like material and super interesting alternative to the actual leather production from cows, for instance. Well, another part of our business model, not right now because of COVID, but is our zero waste event space. So we have 3 very large event spaces where we work with a lot of partners to actually organize events around innovation and entrepreneurship, sustainability, but also experiment with circular catering. So also do a lot of experimentation with food concepts and actually test them to the public. So this is also one, this is again the swimming pool area, which is always a weird view, but it's a really cool event space actually. And thanks to COVID, or maybe, well, yeah, I think I should say thanks to COVID, we're now also in business as an online studio. So this year we already hosted about 55 online events. Most of the time they always have to do with innovation and sustainability. But this is how we use and reach a lot of people. So in the building there are now actually 35 circular entrepreneurs. And their businesses completely differ. So there's a lot of them that actually have a specialism in the building and construction industry. There's a lot of them that have experience in plastic recycling and plastic circular design strategies. So for instance, there's a company called Better Future Factory. What they used to make a lot of products from plastic waste, but what they now do is they do entire strategy design and product strategies for instance, a New York-based company, a cosmetic company, where they actually make a reusable cup for them, which serves as a customer loyalty program and actually make sure that the company has no longer single-use plastics. So these are the kind of products that they do. And then well, I'll tell a bit more about them later, but you can look those up. I will send you the PowerPoint and you can look the names up. I have very little time, so So basically what we did, and this was always the goal, the reason why because I can tell you from my experience after 5 years that circular renovating a former abandoned swimming pool is, I think, one of the hardest things you can do. But the reason why we did it is because it grabs a lot of attention. So it really puts the circle economy on the map, and it puts it in the map right in the city center. And this is really a great example for Rotterdam. So I think the municipality always really helped and backed Blue City because we were entrepreneurs, but also because of the mission. So I think circular economy and climate resilience are in the heart of the strategy of the city. We felt that we were helped a lot by the city itself. And also thanks to them, we turned into an award-winning international platform for circular entrepreneurship. And we used the building and its weird story to actually put the item and especially the entrepreneurs on the map and showcase their innovations and make sure they meet their businesses. So what we do is we organize over 100 events a year. We did before COVID 300 tours a year. All in all, we attract around 18,000 visitors a year. What we do in the lab, we develop around 10 new materials and bio-based innovations a year. So this is one of the companies that's actually making construction material from seaweed. Another one is we do a lot of corporate design tracks and sprints. So we also work, we don't just work with entrepreneurs, but we also work with the city itself, and companies in the city do a lot of corporate and design tracks. One of the examples is we actually developed a leather-like material, a textile material from a waste flow from the greenhouses, a bit outside of Rotterdam. There's a lot of residual flows where you can make a lot of cool products. So we mobilized all these kind of partners together. We collected their waste flow and we turned it into a new product. And this is what we do, is we organize a lot of economic activity and a lot of stakeholders. So we don't work for just one company, we work for the entire value chain. So this is our goal, is actually mobilize the entire systems. Also because we have a neutral role in the system. And like I said, but this is when I can give the stick to René probably, is that Rotterdam has the circle economy in the center of its strategy. And I think we experience it as a very open and a good city to do business in and with. So that's how I would conclude my story. I'm not sure if now is the question time, Keith, or is it later?
I think what we'll do is if it's all right with you, keep questions and do it all at the end.
Yeah, sure.
That's fab. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sabine. It's just such an interesting ecosystem, isn't it? And community that you've built there. Lots, I think, for us to try and kind of learn from, even, just in our circular economy work. But I think every business and every public sector agency at the moment is all talking about climate change and net zero and sustainability. But, we've got to turn that into business benefit and kind of make sure that people can make money while they're kind of making the purpose and the mission come to life. So thank you, I really appreciate it. Our next speaker is René Hansen. So René is Business Manager, Agri and Food at Rotterdam Partners. So over to you.
Thank you, Alison.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sabine, for your great presentation. Keith, I need your help because I've got some problems with my computer. So luckily I sent my presentation earlier today to Keith as a backup. So I don't know if you can share your screen and be my assistant for 10 minutes.
Would you like the PowerPoint first?
Oh, yes, please.
2 seconds.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is René Hansen, and as Alison said, I work for Rotterdam Partners. We are an IPA, and that's not an Indian Pale Ale, but an investment promotion agency. So our main objective is to strengthen the economy of the Greater Rotterdam area. And we were founded and funded by the city of Rotterdam. So basically the mayor of Rotterdam is our principal. And as I said, the objective is to strengthen the economy. And we do so by attracting foreign companies to start their business in Rotterdam, but also facilitating small and medium enterprises in the Rotterdam area if they want to do business abroad. Next slide, Keith. And well, as you noticed, Sabine, her enthusiasm, and we are very proud of initiatives like Blue City, which really represents the Rotterdam spirit, that we see opportunities where others see difficulties. So what makes us proud of Rotterdam is its energy, room to experiment, innovative and entrepreneurial spirit, and also the cultural diversity. And I will come back to that later. So that's why we are so dedicated to move the city forward. And in my presentation, like many presentations that you've seen from areas or receiving countries or cities, it's all about square meter price, the tax system, availability of talent. It's all true, but what we like to stress out is what makes Rotterdam such a special place to work and to live. If we describe our DNA, it's kind of, well, basically three characters. We are a bit bold, and bold meaning unpolished, a bit rough, because of we are a port city. We are always looking forward, looking to the future. When we were bombed in 1940, 2 weeks later, the plans were at the drawing table to rebuild the city. So I always say, if you want to know what the Netherlands looks like in about 10, 15 years from now, visit Rotterdam today. And third part of our DNA is culture. We have over 175 different nationalities, which makes the city of Rotterdam a melting pot of different cultures, attitudes, and that creates a unique situation, learning from each other. Next slide, please. And I will go through this a little faster, because this must be familiar to you, that foreign companies like yours, if you want to do business in Rotterdam, we are here to help you. And since we are financed by the city of Rotterdam, we do not have to charge you for our services, so they are free, confidential and impartial. And we advise on investor information, support with site selection, but also advice on tax issues, how to set up your business, finding qualified staff, etc., etc. We don't have a pot with money. I always say, if you need money, you must go to the bank. But what we have is maybe on the long run even more important. We have knowledge and a very effective practical network. So we introduce you to relevant parties. Next slide, please. And this is the building we are having our offices. For Scottish standards, it's pretty young, but in Rotterdam, it's one of the oldest buildings. It was constructed in 1665, and we rent this building from the city of Rotterdam. Next one, please. And why should you choose Rotterdam for your international business? Well, first of all, like many other branches, it's about the location. We are located close to the port of Rotterdam, because our success is because of the great port we have, the seaport. We used to be the largest port in the world. Now we are number 10 or 11, but all the larger ports are in Asia. And we have a good relation with Asian ports, so we benefit from their growth. But our aim is not to be the biggest, but moreover to be the smartest, to create added value. And I would say that our port is very competitive, efficient, and the logistic services rendered here in Rotterdam are tremendous. And it's not only because I'm being paid to say this, but it's, if we ask customers, they will say the same. I think in some parts of Germany, it's easier to ship your goods via the port of Rotterdam and ship it by rail, barge, or truck. The on-time delivery is even faster than from Hamburg. Next one, Keith. And as I said, strategic location, accessibility by 2 airports, Schiphol, Rotterdam. We have a direct connection with the Eurostar train to London, St. Pancras. Short sea, a ferry connection with Harwich and Hull. And as I mentioned earlier, the largest and smartest port of Europe. Next one. And myself, I'm in charge of the AGRIFOOD cluster as business manager. And Rotterdam is mainly known for its port, but not too many people know that we are basically the agri-food delta of Western Europe. If you see, the Netherlands is the 2nd largest exporter of agri-food after the US, with a total volume of over 100 billion euros. And a huge part of that export passes the port of Rotterdam. And the complete chain is present in Rotterdam. And John of Angus Fruit will tell you a bit later more about his company, who's already active in the Netherlands. But from seed breeders to growers to the complete supply chain in the greenhouses, the food industry, Unilever, used to have their global headquarters in Rotterdam. Unfortunately, they decided to move to London. But they were born, the company was based in Rotterdam. Next one, Keith. And these are a few agri-food companies based in Rotterdam. Well, a few UK companies like Innocent Drinks, the smoothies, they are currently building a factory in Rotterdam, their first one. So far they outsourced it. And now they decided to build the factory in Rotterdam. Had nothing to do with the Brexit, because we were talking to them before the referendum. And then they were already considering starting their own factory in the Netherlands. Angus, Total Produce from Ireland, Tails, the online seller of pet food. So we are proud to have these companies within our city limits. Next one, please. And of course, another very important cluster is maritime and offshore, with a volume of 475 million metric tons of volume. And I must say, a huge part of that is fossil. So we are now in the middle of a transition to become more, focusing more on renewable energy like wind and hydrogen. So we are in the middle of that process and looking for front runners to support us with that. Next one. Am I still in time, Kit, or?
Yep, you're all good.
Okay, thank you. Well, the Port of Rotterdam, as said before, very efficient cluster. And the good thing is there are no locks. And with its 26-meter depth, the largest container vessels can visit the Port of Rotterdam. And it's the on-time performance that really distinguishes us from other ports. And we are very proud of that. And we have to keep working on that, of course. Next one. Logistics, same story. Because of the port, the complete logistic supply chain is present in the port of Rotterdam. And now Keith can share this presentation with you. So, and if you have any question after this webinar, on the last slide, my contact details are mentioned. So don't hesitate to mail me if you have any questions after this webinar. Next one, please. And as I said, the business aspects are one, but the quality of life in Rotterdam is really I've been living here for over 20 years. I was born and raised in Amsterdam, and Amsterdam and Rotterdam are, I don't know, it's like Edinburgh and Glasgow, I think, or Dundee and Aberdeen maybe, the rifle tea. But Rotterdam used to be, well, we still are the working city, and Amsterdam was the city where you spend your money, here you earn your money. But now we more and more have such great facilities, cultural and restaurants, like the depot of Museum Boijmans van Beuningen. Normally museums, what you see is only 1/3 of the collection. The rest of the collection is stored in a depot, underground most of the times. And this museum decided to show the whole collection, the total collection. And this building stores their collection. So it's not an exhibition room, but you see all the paintings, the statues, they are stored on shelves. And you can go in and walk through the depot to see the complete collection. And the building as such is an icon with the mirror facade. Next one, please. And as you see, it's always sunny in Rotterdam. And well, it's a great place to call home. Affordable prices, international schools. It's relatively clean and safe. And most of the Rotterdam people speak English, which is an advantage. And it's a place where you feel welcome. And that's very important for internationals working for an international company. As an expat working and living in a city, it's so important to feel welcome. And as Rotterdam Partners, we also have an expat center where we welcome employees of international companies and arrange their working permits, school for the children, housing, etc. Next one. And of course, an entrepreneurial city. And the good thing, this picture was taken in Blue City, in Sabine's Blue City. And it's, as she said, we have a can-do mentality. It's really, our mayor always says, this is the only city where you can buy shirts where the sleeves are already rolled up, because this is a true working city, but also the combination with enjoying life. Next one, please. And we are part of the Invest in Holland network, NFIA, Netherlands Foreign Investment Agency, linked to the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Foreign Affairs. They have an office in London, and their objective is to basically sell the Netherlands in the UK, and we are their regional partner for this area. And as you see on the map, we work with all our colleagues all over the Netherlands. Next one, please. And maybe we should go very fast through this one. The visitors 2019, 1.9 million hotel nights in the city, 1.2 million hotel guests. Well, you can imagine 2020, is a dramatic year with less than 20% occupancy, and it's not over yet. So, well, I think in Scotland it's the same. Next one, Keith. And we as Rotterdam Partners, we focus on international visitors spending more days in our city, visiting conferences and seminars, because as you can see, Congress visitors spend 7 times more than a day visitor. Next one, please. And 2019, these are the projects that we have been working on, facilitating foreign companies to start their business in Rotterdam. And 86 new companies started their business in Rotterdam, and 53 of those were led by us, creating 1,340 jobs and 169 million of investments after 3 years. Next one, please. And just a brief slide on international media covering Rotterdam as a destination. And we have a press department, 3 great ladies who have a great network all over the world. And they have a good network with those international renowned journalists. And we always focus on themes like architecture or innovation or circularity. Next one, please. And we believe in collaboration, like Sabine said, working together with our partners. But the best ambassadors of our city are the people living in our city. So we have a close relation with the citizens of Rotterdam, and we really involve them in new campaigns or in brainstorm sessions in how they think we should sell and market our city. Because ultimately they are our shareholders. They decide what's good for Rotterdam. And if you visit a foreign city as a tourist, you like to go where the locals go. So in that respect, it's very important that we fine-tune our campaigns with panels from the city of Rotterdam. Next one, please. And as I said, we are in transition because future digitalization, future health and food, energy industry, we are at a real turning point. I think 25 to 30 years from now, the landscape in the port will be dramatically changed because all the fossil industry must be gone by then. So we are now working on new systems, new smart mobility concepts with international partners. So, and there we also look for collaboration with what some call our competitors, other areas, other countries, because these challenges are on a global scale. And we think that Rotterdam can play a significant role in facing those challenges. Next one, Keith. And as I said, we connect you to Rotterdam. So don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions. I have a short 3-minute video. Keith, I don't know if it's standby, if you would be so kind to show it, give you an impression of our city.
When it comes to great ideas, it doesn't matter who owns them or where they came from. When it comes to great ideas, what matters is where you take them and where they take you. Great ideas are the product of an open mind, of people that spot the opportunity before they seek approval, of boundless ambition that remains confident when others are in doubt, of dreams and ideals that are fearless and rise to the challenge. Great ideas need people that see the world not as it is, but how it can be. They are the entrepreneurs and the innovators, the teachers, the talents and the investors, the partners and the connectors, the dreamers and the doers. They are the pioneers that make ideas truly great by taking them to the right place, a place to grow, full of possibilities, a city that is alive with energy, and home to the business and people alike, a port that attracts and connects, and acts as a springboard for those who are ready to conquer the world. What's your idea? What opportunities do you see? Stake your claim, take the leap, and make it great. Rotterdam, make it happen.
Thank you.
Brilliant, Rennie. Thank you so much. There's sort of the synergies and the similarities, I think, between the way that Dundee sees itself and Rotterdam sees itself are pretty striking, actually. But you've got a few strap lines that are I think, I mean, we are Scotland's coolest city. We're the sunniest city in Scotland, and we've got some pretty good strap lines, but yours are pretty good too. Very, very, very much appreciate you taking the time to do that for us. It's always really important to look at the economic strengths of a place and try and understand for our Scottish delegates where they can really see those opportunities and make things happen. So thank you very much, and we'll come to you after we've heard from our last speaker, and we'll do a bit of a Q&A with everybody. So thanks again. I'd like to introduce to you our third speaker. So John Gray is Managing Director of Angus Soft Fruits Limited, and they are as the name suggests, Angus based, but also Netherlands based, as I discovered when I had a really interesting conversation with John. So John's going to talk about his experiences of trading in that part of the world as a Scottish company. So John, over to you.
Thank you. Right, well, I try and share my screen, see if this works. You see that?
You sure can.
So. Start at the beginning though. Okay, good evening everyone. As Alison said, my name's John Gray. I'm the Managing Director of Angus Soft Fruits. Our head office is based in Arbroath. And what I thought I would do in the next 10 minutes is just give you a overview of what we do, what our business does, and then focus in on why and how we've started doing business in Holland, and finish with a few of the learnings that we've had, and then happy to take questions. So this graphic tries to explain what we do in a nutshell. So we're a vertically integrated fresh produce business supplying soft fruit, by which I mean strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries and some cherries, to the markets, particularly in the UK. We're invested at all stages in the production process. So we have a breeding program where we're producing new varieties of strawberries and raspberries and blackberries. We have our own production. Obviously, we started as growers on the east coast of Scotland around Arbroath and Carnoustie. And we now have our own production in other parts of the world, such as Spain, Chile and Morocco, and that's aimed at giving us a 12-month supply of berries for our customers, which is what the consumer wants. We then have sourcing. So we don't produce all the fruit that we sell. We work with a number of growers, around 100 throughout the world. And we have teams based in Spain and Morocco, in Zimbabwe and in Chile. And then on the marketing side, we predominantly are selling from the UK. So about 85% of our turnover will be in the UK. and of that turnover, about 90% is going into retail. We supply pretty much all the high street supermarket chains in the UK, and then about 10% of our volume goes into food service and wholesale channels. And then relatively recently, we started our business Angus Salt Fruits in Europe, which I'll come on to talk about a little bit later. One of the big differences between the UK and the rest of the world is in the UK, the majority of the fruit is sold private label, Tesco strawberries or Sainsbury raspberries, whereas in Europe and further afield, it gives us the opportunity to brand what we do, which is quite exciting in itself. The business has a turnover in the UK and Europe around 180 million sterling, which means we have about a 15% share of the UK berry market. We have a management team of just over 100, and they're really what makes our business. And around 70 of the team are based in the UK, and we have head office in Arbroath, where just over half of the UK team are based, and then we have a facility, a place called Evesham, south of Birmingham, down south, which is where we pack and redistribute a lot of our imported products. And then internationally, as I mentioned, we have teams in Holland, Spain, Poland, Chile, and Morocco. So we're all about great tasting berries and delighting our customers each and every day. And we keep in mind our 5 values: exceed, innovate, collaborate, efficient, and always with integrity. And that's something that we spent quite a bit of time on over the last few years as the numbers of people in the business have expanded. So that's what we do. A little bit about breeding. We breed new varieties down near Evesham, and we're crossing about 1,000 different plants with each other. So natural selection crossing, so taking the parts of one strawberry flower from one parent and another from another parent with different characteristics, in effect rubbing flowers together, and then the strawberry or raspberry that's produced, every one of the seeds of the strawberry or the seeds of the raspberry is potentially a new variety. So we then have to, so you can just imagine how many seeds are on a strawberry plant. So each one of those is potentially a new variety. And then it takes us about 5 or 6 years to go from 20,000 potential new varieties each year through until, on average, maybe 1 or 2 every 5 years. So it's quite a long process. We've trialing sites in Scotland, in the Netherlands, and in Spain, and then we propagate plant material mainly in the Netherlands before we distribute onto farms in various parts of the world. And then we prefix the majority of our varieties with Ava, which was our original variety, which was the name of our original breeder. So that is variety breeding. So what I thought I'd come on to was our Dutch journey, and it's been quite a journey over the last 3 or 4 years. There's obviously a lot of historical connections between Scotland and the Netherlands. I always used to reflect that many of you'll know that in Fife, you'll see that a lot of the houses have red clay tiles, whereas on this side of the Tay, everything's grey slate. Those tiles were originally ballast on boats from Holland and Belgium. So they would come over going back 1500s, 1600s, with tiles to act as ballast, and then they would take wool, predominantly wool, back to Holland and Belgium for spinning and weaving. So the connections go way back, because in those days, pre-decent roads, it was easier to get from east coast of Scotland to Holland than it was to get to London, for example. there's also there's a Scottish church in Rotterdam. So there was enough Scots in Rotterdam back in the mid 1600s to found a church, which is now an international congregation church. So I'm quite interested in history, and I think that it's quite good having the roots between the two countries going right back. It's also a very easy place to get to. I, not for a while now, but spend a lot of time in Holland, and I can get there as easy as London. So I can leave Edinburgh on the 6 a.m. flight, land in Schiphol, walk straight on a train, change at Rotterdam Central, get a smaller train out to Barendrecht, and I can walk 200 or 300 yards to our office. So I can leave my house in Carnoustie at sort of 4:30 in the morning, and I walk into the office in Holland at 9:30 local time. So I can get a whole day there and then leave the office at 4 o'clock and do it all in reverse and be home for sort of 10:30. So it's similar to what I would do when I was going down to London. Of course, there's lots of great reasons for staying in Rotterdam, and as much as possible, I'd try and break the journey with a day or two. And Citizen M in the centre, the hotel there, I've clocked up quite a few of those 1.9 million hotel stays, I would say. So why did we decide to establish a business in Holland? Well, the UK market, it's a great market, but we are stuck, as it were, on our island, and certainly in the retail market, there's a relatively small number of very big players. As I mentioned, we're producing fruit in other parts of the world, in effect the counter season to Northern Europe. So rather than only selling to the UK market, we wanted to start to develop our sales footprint out with the UK. And Holland is, without a shadow of a doubt, where everyone goes in continental Europe. It's just such a long-established trading point. So we see it as an entry point into the continent. And what's great there is that we have hundreds of potential customers compared with a handful over here, and that's a great opportunity. I mean, the UK, we import 3 or 4 billion euros worth of fruit and vegetables into the UK every year, and we export about 100 million euros, so a tiny fraction the other way. So we wanted to also look further ahead to potentially exporting from the UK, although we do still have challenges around logistics, because obviously the having to get across the channel adds a lot of cost. So we took the plunge in 2017 to actually establish a base in Holland, and we now have a facility in Ridderkerk, which is a trading estate just outside Rotterdam, and I think it's a fantastic place. I mean, in Scotland, we're quite remote from the market. There, we can stand in our office and you just see lorries going back and forward with produce coming in at one end, going out at the other end, coming in from all parts of the world, going out to all parts of the world. So we have a management team of around 15 based in Ridderkerk. We have a warehouse and packing facilities, which is the top picture. As I mentioned earlier on, what's quite exciting about Europe is that we are branding what we do rather than it being private label over here. So we have our brand Good Natured, which we originally developed for the UK market. We are using now in Europe. And you can see there at the bottom some of the packaging that we're using. So we're shipping fruit on a daily basis to customers, obviously in Holland. Scandinavia is a big target market. They consume about twice as many berries per capita in Scandinavia as they do in the UK, and Norway in particular, with a similar population to here. Frustratingly, we've got no direct connection from Scotland, which we used to have, so we have to ship fruit south to go over, to go up, to then spend another a couple of days to get to the north of Norway. And then we're also selling into Germany and France. We ship fruit weekly to Iceland and also to the Middle Eastern markets as well. So it's not easy, because whilst it's a big market, there's lots of competition. You could say that because there are such efficient logistics links and making, because it's so easy to do business, then that can make it easier for the competition as well. But it's definitely been a success for us thus far in terms of establishing that foothold, albeit that we've had a lot of pain on the journey. But we'll turn over about 25 million euros this year in Holland, and the aim over the next 5 years is for that to increase balance with the UK. Finally, I thought I would just pull out some challenges that we've had and some learnings. I suppose it's different if you're exporting from the UK, that it's a little bit different establishing a business in Holland. The culture, there are differences. We employ Spanish speaking, so Spain, Chile, Arabic, Morocco, and obviously UK and Holland. And there's definitely differences which can get glossed over initially, and are worth spending time on, just understanding how different people operate. I think the word that Rennie, I think, quite diplomatically used was the word bold, which is a new one for me. I've got alternatives. So there's definitely a need to understand the differences in culture. It's a very direct culture. And business systems was a learning for us, just making sure that we had everything aligned. We tend to go out, find customers, and then work backwards from there. And that's something that we've learned the hard way, that we need to get things in place. And there's quite significant differences in HR between the UK in terms of the rules. Holland's a lot more aligned with the rest of the continent than the UK is, so that's can catch you out. So that hopefully just gives you a little bit of a flavour for what we do as a business and what we do now in Holland. Yeah, back to you.
Great, thank you so much, John. Really interesting, and I think yeah, it's always good, I think, to hear the kind of the on the ground experience. Were you just particularly insightful in terms of Brexit and what was going to happen, John, or did that very much have was that part of your thought process of using the Netherlands as a base to Europe?
It wasn't at the time. I think really the thought process was that our market was still growing, but it's getting leveling off. Whereas Europe is where consumption trends were in the UK maybe 5 years ago in terms of our market. So we could sort of see the future. And every time we were looking at selling, there would tend to be a Dutchman in between. So we thought, well, rather than trying to beat them, we'll join them.
Thank you, that's great. So just before we do our panel session, I would invite you to drop any questions you've got into the chat, and what I'm going to do is just invite Ewan Smith in from Lathalan as our webinar sponsor tonight, just to come in and say a few words about themselves and what they do, and then it will be time for the questions. So Ewan.
Okay, thank you very much, Alison. First of all, I'll just say thank you to Rennie and to John. I missed the first speaker, unfortunately, but from Rennie's point of view, the only time I've been to Rotterdam was for a fine or art scheme when I was a journalist for The Sun, and I will be speaking to John next week at some stage, coincidentally, so that's good. Behind me, I don't have a presentation screen, but I'll just talk. Behind me, as you can maybe see, my virtual background. I don't know how clearly you can see it, but behind me is Lathalan School. which is a 19th century castle. It's based up in the northeast, just north of Montrose, about 10 minutes north of Montrose, right on the sea. We are 200 metres from the North Sea, and we, from an international perspective, we do, from a Dutch perspective, it's not a tenuous link, but we do have 8 pupils, I believe, who have got Dutch connections, four in our senior school, and we've got 4 in our junior school. So as a school, we're a very small school. We have 200 pupils across our entire school, which is right from the junior school. So from age 5 up to age 18, we've got 200 pupils in the whole school. So some of the benefits of us as a school, we have very small class sizes. We have class sizes of around 12 pupils per class. And we live in a fantastic environment, as you can see. So we've got 60 acres of grounds in our school, which means there's an awful lot of outdoor learning, which is paramount to what we do. It's particularly important at the moment with the COVID situation, and pupils, we're not wanting pupils to be in closed spaces, so we make great use of our outdoors. What's interesting maybe from John's perspective, as we talk, is on the left, on the left, as you can see me, we've got quite a large polytunnel, which we grow a lot of fruit, we grow a lot of vegetables, and we use this produce directly in our kitchen to feed to the pupils. So in the last few years, we've had meals where 80% of our produce has actually been grown or reared on site. And we've got ambitions going forward to be 100% sustainable in that sense. So our meals would all be entirely produced on site. So it really gives that learning journey to our pupils about where things grow, about the food journey. So that's really important. We've got a couple of new additions to our school, so we're a bit of a quirky school. For instance, today I had a meeting with the headmaster, and at the end of the meeting he gave me 6 eggs, which had come from our chickens, which are on site. And we've just added 2 peacocks, which we are joining, and we're going to add 4 alpacas to the site before the end of January, I believe. So it's just it's quirky, it's different school. And from an international perspective, we have boarding at our school. So we have 38 boarding spaces. We generally do have boarders largely from Scotland and from the northeast of Scotland, but we do have international boarders as well. And we have had boarders from Holland as well in the past. And what we find is that the international boarders, quite often they will come over, and it's about developing their English and about experiencing a new culture. We had a girl a couple of years ago that came from Hungary, and she spoke next to no English by the time she started, and by the end of the year she was on stage, the star of the show, singing a song entirely in English. So very impressive. So a bit different from what we're talking about, but I'm fascinated by what I'm hearing from everybody about, and Rotterdam looks absolutely amazing to me. I mean, like I say, I only spent 2 nights in Rotterdam when I covered that Feyenoord Hearts game. I've been to Amsterdam on many occasions, but I wasn't aware of how the close proximity between the 2 cities, and I'm aware of how different they look. I know that I went on a boat tour in Rotterdam as well, so I do know how different they look, but I think the business opportunities are clearly evident, and as John has pointed out, Angus Fruits have clearly capitalised on that, and I'm very impressed by what they've done over the last couple of years. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for the time.
No worries. Thank you so much, Ewan. That was really interesting, and I think there is lots of synergies. We should get you on our trade mission so that you can sell what Lathalan does to all those amazing people in the Netherlands. So we have got a couple of questions. Brett is asking, I'm guessing, well, for anybody, I suppose, but Rennie, I'm guessing this is maybe more aimed at you. Brett, do you want to just come in and actually ask your questions?
Yeah, apologies. I put multiple questions in there, so there's maybe some that are relevant for different. So I'll just read it out, because I think it's sometimes easier than trying to take out the chat, isn't it? I was just going to say, I sailed in and out of Rotterdam a lot back in the late 80s and 90s. And I just had a couple of questions. One, I know it's not the world's largest port anymore, but is it still Europe's largest port? Would I see a lot of difference now compared to the 90s? And is there a large part of the wind offshore energy supply chain around there? And the final question, which is more me as a ship buff, is the SS Rotterdam open currently? Sorry, 4 questions there, I think.
Thank you, Brett. Yes, indeed, Rotterdam is still the largest port of Europe. Your question, what's the difference between now and the 90s, is that we have gained some land from the North Sea. The second Maasvlakte, over 2,000 hectares. I don't know what the hectare is in English.
Hectares.
Hectares. So at the opening, the CEO of the Port of Rotterdam, when the Queen officially opened the second Maasvlakte, he said, "It was a pleasure expanding your country, my Queen." So that is a difference. And indeed, we are, as I said in my presentation, moving from traditional energy sources to offshore wind, definitely. But also moving to like Neste oil from Finland. They are very sustainable refinery on bio-based energy. And they are also working together with Shell. BP is present in the Port of Rotterdam. And I mean, they have to change because, as I said, 30 years from now, the playing field will be completely different. And unfortunately, the Danish were a bit, we were lagging behind in offshore wind projects, but we are now teaming up with them.
Great, thank you very much.
I will maybe send an email separately if that's okay, Rennie. We did at the last Offshore Europe conference in September 19, we did quite a lot with some Holland companies that came over. But I can send an email on that because that was
Please
quite
do so, yeah. Let's stay connected.
Thank you, Alison.
Thanks, Brett. You're welcome. So, Renee, we've got a question from Louise about how Rotterdam Partners actually works with businesses. So, what she's saying is, you know, and I guess I might part answer this and make some judgments. You can fill in my gaps. But Louise is asking if are you similar to, I guess, our Chamber of Commerce, in that, you know, if we had businesses coming into us, we might recommend some of our members or businesses to make connections. So, you know, is that a service that you offer? Do you help businesses create business relationships?
Yes, we do. But the difference between Rotterdam Partners and the Chamber of Commerce is that Chamber of Commerce has a legally official task registering companies in the Chamber of Commerce. And they used to facilitate companies going internationally. That's what they don't do anymore. And they have handed those activities over to us. We are an independent foundation. So we are not a part of the city of Rotterdam. So we are not civil servants, but we report to the city because they subsidize us. And our main target groups are visitors, tourists and business visitors, residents and businesses. And companies wanting to do business in Rotterdam or setting up their business. And John, sorry, I only got connected to you today by Keith. If we had met in 2017, we could have helped you in setting up your business in Ridderkerk. But what we do is, yes, we advise, we connect. But things we don't do is we don't do market surveys. We don't connect you to potential customers because we feel that's your own responsibility.
Yeah, chambers of commerce in our two countries are quite different, because I think well, as you said, in your part of the world, a company is registered and within the Chamber of Commerce, whereas here we don't do that kind of legal side of things. We're more of a connector and a networking organisation and a business support organisation. But like you, we're not part of the kind of the local council or the statutory bodies. We just work really closely with them. So and I think it just building, I suppose, on what Louise's question is really, I guess, in terms of the activity that we're doing with the international connecting. What Dundee and Angus Chamber is doing is connecting with lots of different partners in Rotterdam to help with those business introductions. And you know, from the Sabine and Renee that we have on the call today, there's a network of global Scots that are part of Scottish Enterprise and Scottish Development International. They're part of the Scots in market, and we work really closely with them to help foster those connections too. So I think between us, we've got fingers in all sorts of pies that may or may not have Angus soft fruits in them.
Yeah.
So that leads, so we've got another question here. Jeremy, do you want to come in and ask your question, or are you quite happy for me to just ask it? Feel free to come in if you like.
Yeah, unmute. There we are. Yeah, we're very proud of our food and drink in Scotland, but does it have much of a profile in the Netherlands apart from Scotch whisky? And so are we properly taking advantage of our export opportunities? Okay, and maybe ask John's opinion on that, and then Renee, you might then give a view on whether there is quite a big opportunity then for the Scottish food and drink.
Yeah, I think is there enough of a profile? I would say not, and I think, as I mentioned, certainly from a fruit and vegetable perspective, there's very little gets exported. There's obviously, as you mentioned, whisky, salmon, shortbread associations with Scotland, but I'd say that there are definitely opportunities. Customers we're dealing with in new markets don't really appreciate that we grow berries in Scotland. Not a lot of people realise that we produce about 25% of the UK crop. So we send a lot of strawberries south. Just within the UK. So it's about building that association with quality as far as we're concerned. One of the companies that I do see has had quite good cut through is Brewdog. So you'll see that in quite a few places, and all credit to them for what they do.
Thanks, John. Renee?
Sorry?
Renee, I was just going to say, Renee, did you want to add anything to?
Oh, no. The only thing I wanted to say is I'm not too familiar with the whiskey market. I like a single malt, of course, but I don't know how competitive the market is. But the only thing I would suggest is be prepared and determine what distinguishes your product, because it's a very tough competition on the shelves of the liquor stores. And upcoming other countries, of course, Scottish whisky is the most famous, but more and more you see not only Irish, but also Japanese whiskies or American whiskies entering the market.
Absolutely. Thank you. Sabine, I had a question, I think, about how I think when we were first sort of learning much more about what you do, I felt that there would be lots of opportunity to connect entrepreneurs thinking about the circular economy with entrepreneurs in your part of the world. And in fact, even so Jeremy, who just was asking the question, he's actually one of our chamber directors, but with his day job very much represents rural and agriculture businesses, and was in the Netherlands meeting up with quite a number of circular entrepreneurs within the rural kind of environment. So Sabine, I was interested in how you think we could foster relationships and business opportunities between our respective sets of circular entrepreneurs.
Yeah, what I think is really interesting is that if you look at cities from a circular perspective, they're really formed in the same way, which makes I think it makes it super interesting to connect both of them, because there's always a bit more of specific kind of industries and therefore specific kind of entrepreneurs in one city than and in the other. And I think they can learn a lot from each other's experience, because the context sometimes is different. The local, especially the agricultural types are different, but then again, they have a lot of similarities in the way they are organized, and that could be super interesting. So I think there is a lot of opportunity to collaborate, because as cities, we face more or less the same challenges if it comes to circular economy in terms of waste management and circular economy business cases. That's a global problem.
yeah. A Brexit related. Sorry, carry on, Jeremy. No, go for it.
There because something that came out in the presentation, Sabine's in particular, but also when I was over there, is very much that hub concept. So we saw that in place in Rotterdam, but then also Utrecht and Den Bosch sort of area, where they have a lot of facilities which really are set up as specialist hubs for entrepreneurs. And they all bounce off each other and just integrate with each other, and it is such a encouraging for innovation, investment, and things like that. So that hub concept, I know in Dundee we've got it to a certain degree with computer games, but that's really what I felt the Dutch were really ahead on, was hubs.
Yeah, so we do a lot. For instance, we work together with Rotterdam partners, but a lot of the partners that Rotterdam partners also mentioned, like investors. So for instance, we organize impact investment dinners, and that way we connect all the startups to the impact investors. And the same goes for these hubs. Like all these startups more or less go to the same phases of growth. So at a certain point, they are always too late in thinking about the second round of investments, and they're always too late about start talking about specific challenges or never aware of stuff they should have brought to the accountant. So this is where a hub comes in really helpful, and where the networks really help, especially in Rotterdam. What is really nice about Rotterdam, what I like at least, is there's a lot of collaboration also among the hubs. So there's a collaboration of I think about at least 5 or 6 co-working spaces or startup hubs, which all have a different focus, and all the maker spaces. So I have I think a bit too many app groups with all these kind of groups that are working together, but we share a lot of information, and sometimes we actually refer companies to each other which are better being helped in another hub, or that's really nice.
Thank you. I'm interested just in I guess what the future of business looks like in Rotterdam for next year, as we all kind of begin to come out of the pandemic. Do you see the business landscape being very different than it's been in 2019, or will you sort of settle back down, do you think?
Yeah, is that for me or Renee? Renee.
Both, probably. Yeah.
You go first, Sabine.
Yeah, well, I think it's really interesting. What we've seen, when we started in 2015, there wasn't even a circular economy team, and right now in 2020, there's I think about the sustainability team in the municipality has over 40 people working for it, I think, and in addition has a circular economy team on the waste management side with even more, I think about 20 people extra. So I feel that there's an enormous focus on innovation, but specifically innovation that is really aimed to solve serious problems. So and use that for business. So I think that's a super interesting development in the city. That's really changing. So it's not only just innovation in itself, but it has a really specific focus. So on sustainability, but also healthcare, and they're making choices, which I think is really good. And also the energy transition, which is really necessary in the port. So
yeah, and I would like to add that indeed circularity as such the good thing is that now more and more corporates are incorporating the circularity mindset. I mean, sustainability is a license to operate, will be a license to operate. And circularity is also a business case because Sabine mentioned waste management, but waste can be profitable. And the good thing of this development is that more and more corporates are triggered to participate. And Rotterdam, I would say, is very, kind of front runner. We entered the Rockefeller Resilient Cities, I think 4 or 5 years ago. And our mayor just entered the board of the Resilient Cities 100 worldwide collaboration. So, yeah. And your question, Alison, due to COVID-19, what you see is those innovations, not only technical innovations, but also social innovations, because we found out how important inclusivity is, an inclusive society. During lockdown, a lot of initiatives on a very local scales were developed by Rotterdam people. So that is really promising. And if you look at companies working internationally, that they not reinvented themselves, but it was very sexy to do business with China, with the Middle East, with Latin America. But most companies forgot our neighbors, like the UK, like Germany, France, Belgium. So that's what we noticed so far.
Great, thank you. So it doesn't look like there are any more questions specifically that we've really not covered. So I think what I'll do is I'll just do a few thanks and just say, talk a little bit about the next steps. So massive thank you to our 3 speakers this evening. It's been really interesting to hear the different takes. It's, as you say, it's you all say it's so easy to get to, it's so easy and welcoming to do business, and there are very many opportunities, I think, for businesses with a bold mindset to get interested and explore it as a market. So thank you very much for taking the time to come and be part of our event this evening. I just want to very quickly talk a little bit about next steps. So this is a part of our ambitions to get Scottish businesses very much trading and doing business and making connections in Rotterdam and in the Netherlands. And we will be running a workshop which is going to take a much deeper look. So for businesses that are really, really keen to be part of the trade mission work, whether it's at the next one, which will be virtual in the first quarter of next year, or whether it's what we will do, which is follow up with a physical trade mission as soon as we're all vaccinated and allowed back on doing business travel and really kind of getting out and about, which we really hope will be not very long at all. So Keith will send out information on the next steps and our next dates, but really our next steps are for anybody that's interested in being part of these delegations to get in touch with Keith and just begin to explore, are there opportunities? He will be able to give you some pointers on the research places. So Scottish Development International have been very kind and said they'll support what we're doing. They'll support businesses that are looking at overseas markets and help you do some research and just really hone down. Because as Renee said, we will definitely, we as in Dundee and Angus Chamber will, and some of our partners will help you with business connections, but it's very much got to be your skin in the game too. So any Scottish business that's really interested has got to know, who do you want to talk to? What types of sectors do you think are your niche opportunities? And then we can put all the building blocks in place, but we can't do it for our businesses. So coming along or listening to this on the recording is definitely a good early step in your journey. So we really thank you for the businesses that have got interest in working with us and getting trade in the Netherlands. Thank you to Ewan and to Lath Allen for their sponsorship of this evening. Thank you to Keith for making us so organised and making sure that we all could get on here tonight, that our presentations were all seamless on screen, and to Sarah and to Vaso for turning out, and to Jeremy. The Chamber wouldn't be the success it is without having volunteers on our board that really help us make connections. So he's helped us kind of with this spark in the Netherlands too. So thank you to you all for giving up a little bit of your Wednesday evening. I hope the rest of your week goes well, and we look forward to being part of your journey and actually getting over to Rotterdam before very long. So
hope to see you soon in Rotterdam.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.